So, Vinaya Mataji, can you see me now? Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Mataji, Danvat Pranam, Glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, so the voice is also okay. The voice, okay. Hare Krishna Anjana Gopika Mataji, Danvat Pranam, Glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you so much for joining. Okay, thank you everybody for joining today's class. And we'll move forward to our Chaitanya Charitamrita class, right? So let's offer our prayers. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jayo Jayo Shri Chaitanya Jayo Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. We are reading from Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, chapter 23, entitled Life's Ultimate Goal. And today we'll start with text number 18 and 19. Sorry, it's not. It's from 14 and 15. I'm so sorry. So it's chapter 23, entitled Life's Ultimate Goal, and text is 14 and 15. So I'll read the this verse and then the translation. Ado Shraddha Tata Sadhu Sango Ata Bhajana Kriya Tatva Narta Nivritti Seya Tato Nishta Ruchis Tata Atha Shaktis Tato Bhavas Tata Prema Bhyanchati Sadhakanam Ayam Premanaha Pradur Bhave Bhavit Kramaha. So translation goes, in the beginning there must be faith. Then one becomes interested in associating with pure devotees. Thereafter, one is initiated by the spiritual master and executes the regulative principles under his orders. Thus, one is freed from all unwanted habits and becomes firmly fixed in devotional service. Thereafter, one develops taste and attachment. This is the way of sadhana bhakti, the execution of devotional service according to the regulative principles. Gradually, emotions intensify, and finally, there is an awakening of love. This is the gradual development of love of Godhead for the devotee interested in Krishna consciousness. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Charu Swami Niti Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देश तारिणी जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे Hare Krishna everyone. So before I start, I beg all of your prayers and blessings to please shower on me so that I may speak something relevant and in glorification of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita and of course in purification of my own self. So I just humbly bow down to each and every one of you. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Hare Krishna. So as this chapter entitled Life's Ultimate Goal. So we know that there is a sambandha, and then there is a abhidaya, and then finally there is a prayojana aspect, right? So sambandha is to know our eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. And then the abhidaya, that how to attain that sambandha, how to attain that sambandha gyan with the Lord, is the what is the activities that have been related to it, and that is what abhidaya, and that we read in the previous chapter, which is the process of devotional service. And finally, here comes the priyojana aspect, which is the life's ultimate goal. And what is that ultimate goal? That ultimate goal is to achieve prema, to achieve love of Godhead. That is the ultimate goal. There is no other objective. Right. So here, Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is instructing Srila Sanatan Goswami in Sanatan Shiksha about this life's ultimate goal, that is the prayojana aspect. So we have gone to a couple of verses and we saw that how, one has to develop faith, and then faith gets strengthened, and then how we have to associate, that is sadhu sangha, and then we have to perform some devotional activities in the association of devotees, which is bhajana kriya, and then then anartha nivritti happens, and then nishtha, ruchi, asakti, bhava, and then finally prema. So, our speakers have done an excellent job while covering all those verses. And we did it about the 13th verse, which talks about prema. But in this 14th and 15th verse, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is again, you know, mm, highlighting all these 9 stages of devotional service. And then he's again starting of Ado Shraddha, and then Sadhu Sangha, and then Bhajana Kriya. So in this 2 verses, he's going into all those. He's basically, what do you say? He is just condensing all the parts, all the stages that we read before. And in today's class, we'll dive in detail about all those different stages are. So I'll try to finish in one class, and if not, if the time doesn't permit, then probably we will take tomorrow also. But I'll try to finish in this today's class only. So as the verse says, Ado Shraddha. Now just remember that this verse is coming in the prayojana aspect, that is the life's ultimate goal, the love of God. So when it says Ado Shraddha, it doesn't mean that preliminary faith that a person may possess. It's not talking about that faith, right? So here the faith that is being talking about is when a person is already chanting 16 rounds, has accepted this process of devotional service, and is following all the 4 regulative principles. This is what Ado Shraddha here means in this verse, in the connection of the prayojana aspect of service. So before that, whatever condition we may be in, but we need the association of devotees. We can just reflect, introspect in our own lives how we came into Krishna consciousness, right? So it's not that we were already there. We were in this materialistic way of life, but somehow, while coming in contact with the devotees, and through devotees, the books of Srila Prabhupada, that we got some interest in this path, in this process, and we started coming, right? So initially, it is only and only with the association of devotees, somehow coming in contact with devotees in the association, that we accepted this process. And when we accepted this process, sometimes devotees come, they give you Bhagavad Gita, they give you some other book, and then you take it, and then they invite you for some program, and then you started going to that program. And when you start going to that program, what happens that you develop some kind of faith that you want to know more about that, and then you repeatedly go to that program. And at that point, you started accepting the process, like chanting, following four regulative principles, especially leaving non-veg, meat, fish, eggs, and then finally rejecting to onion and garlic. So this is a gradual process that happens, right? And so it starts with sadhu sangha, right? Just try to introspect your own life. So it started with somehow coming in contact with devotees, and then accepting the process. So this is the preliminary stage. And when we have accepted the process, when we are chanting 16 rounds, following all four regulative principles, then starts this verse, that is Ado Shraddha. Then our real faith starts. So here, faith means Shraddha, means to have some firm faith in the scriptures that are dealing with devotional service, that is dealing with bhakti. So here, the bhakti is already there. It has the seed of bhakti has already been sown in the heart of a devotee. From there, this verse starts. And it also means to have a genuine desire. This faith also means to have a genuine desire to enthusiastically follow the activities to do a particular kind of sadhana, as is being described in the scriptures. So now this faith can also be of two types. One is spontaneous. Spontaneous faith, that is known as swabhaviti, means it automatically comes, like you are being invited to the program, and then you are so much attached, so much, you get so much firm faith that you immediately take up to the process of chanting 16 rounds. It happens. I do know one of devotee. First time when I invited them for Bhakti Vriksha program on a Friday evening, they came, and when they came little early, and as soon as they came, they saw the Bhagavatam being displayed in my bookshelf. And as soon as she saw that Bhagavatam set, she immediately inquired and about this books. And then, within a few seconds, she just pulled out her credit card and she just took Srimad Bhagavatam. So it's just in initial, just on first call, she took up this process. So something that happens spontaneously, you don't have to put an extra effort on it, right? That is a spontaneous faith that a person accepts. And immediately, she took up the process, and within a month she came onto the platform of chanting 16 rounds. That is spontaneous faith. And next comes is, another faith that is aroused by the forceful preaching of another. Sometimes you really have to work hard on a devotee, that, oh, please chant 16 rounds, please leave this onion and garlic, please leave this non-veg, please leave tea and coffee. There is a force there. The forceful preaching is there. And then somehow the person develops that faith and come onto the platform of chanting 16 rounds and following four regulative principles, right? So these are the two kinds of faith that a person can have. But apart from that, no matter what, however one develops, whether it's spontaneous or whether it is forceful, but all the kind, whatever faith one has, that leads to our next step, which is sadhu sangha. Now, this sadhu sangha means to accept a bona fide spiritual master. When a person's faith strengthens up and it leads to taking the lotus feet, shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, then the sadhu sangha starts. There, one tries to inquire about truth, about this truth more, and how one's mode of conduct should be, how one's sadachar should be. That is what is sadhu sangha. We know the famous example, the famous verse from Bhagavad Gita, Tatvidhi pranipatena pariparshnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshina. By submissively by taking shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, that person comes in contact, and then one person inquires about his existence, why he is existing, why he came here, what is the purpose of life, what is our relationship with the Supreme Lord, then what should I do in order to achieve that relationship, right? So all, what activities should I perform, all these questions come up for the spiritual master, and a person comes in contact with the like-minded devotees, where the sadhu sangha starts, and performs a devotional service in the association of like-minded devotees. So here what is sadhu sangha is. Now the third steps come is bhajana kriya. What is this bhajana kriya? Bhajana means devotional activities. It's not only doing kirtan, it's not only doing japa, but bhajana means related something to devotional, relating something to Krishna. Right? Maybe it's a deity worship, maybe it's a Damvas, maybe it's reading Srimad Bhagavatam, maybe it's reading any other kind of scriptures, or japa, or chanting, or kirtan, or even some cleaning of temple. Right? Any kind of service, bhajana, which is related to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And kriya means activity. So that is what bhajana kriya is. But bhajana kriya, doing any kind of devotional activities, are also of two types. The class will be little technical. If you don't remember the Sanskrit words, the Sanskrit names that I'll be referring to, that's okay. But the point is to grasp the essence, that where we are, to introspect not to others, but to introspect where we are, how much work we have to do in order to progress. So just take the essence, right? So the bhajana kriya, the devotional activities that is performed, may be also of two types. One is the anishtita. Anishtita devotional activities means something which is unsteady. And the next is naishtika, nishtita. The nishtita means steady devotional service, right? So bhajana kriya can also be performed in two ways. One is in steadiness, that yes, I'm pakka, I'm firm in doing that bhajana kriya and that devotional service. And the next is the anisthita. So here we'll be talking about first anisthita, that what leads to anisthita devotional service. Right? Why our devotional service is not in us, is basically is unsteady. Why it is not steady. So, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes actually the 6 reasons why our devotional service is unsteady. The first reason that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives is because of utsahamai. What does it mean? So, when a person develops some kind of faith, some kind of shraddha, and in the association of devotees perform some kind of service. So that is the very initial stage, right? The person has yet not realized the Sambandha Gyan, has yet not realized life's ultimate goal. But in utsaha, in enthusiasm, a person wants to perform some kind of activities. That is utsahamai, but eventually, because it's a false confidence in oneself, because a person doesn't know the ultimate goal, that what I am doing, but it's only through the initial enthusiasm a person, a devotee, wants to do some kind of devotional service. But since it is the initial enthusiasm, it is unsteady. It is not on a platform of performing a devotional service every day in a steady manner. Right? That is what unsteadiness is. Right? The next is Ghanatarala. Ghanatarala means lethargic. Right? So a person may perform some kind of devotional service, but sometimes it is very condensed. Ghana means basically condensed, thick, and tarala means dilute, that is thin. So a person may do a kind of endeavor, but that endeavor comes in waves. Sometimes, the devotional service is done with full enthusiasm, right? But other times, the person becomes lethargic. So this ghana tarala means that the activities of devotional service, it comes in a form of waves. So when anything which is form in of a wave means the graph is sometimes going up and sometimes going low, so that means it is not steady. So that is what is unsteady devotional service leads to. And third is the vidha vikalpa. Vidha vikalpa means indecision, when doubts arises. When doubt arises in a devotee, then a person thinks, oh, what am I doing is right? Or, should I give up everything? Should I give up my grahastha life? Maybe this ashram in which I am in is not helping me to progress. Maybe I should leave everything and reside in the temple, or maybe go to Vrindavan. Maybe this the full time hearing and chanting, I'm not able to do because of my office, because of my some responsibilities I'm having. So there is a kind of doubt that arises, and because of that doubt, the activities that we do again doesn't come in a steady manner. It again comes in a unsteady way, that is anishtita bhajana kriya. So when doubts arises. Now the fourth is Vishaya Sangara. So in Vishaya Sangara, the doubts have already been eradicated. There is no doubts, right? But Vishaya Sangara means struggle with the senses. So Vishya means basically senses. When we are struggling with our senses, when we want to enjoy, no doubt the doubts are not there. Doubts have already been removed. We are pakka, we are firm now that yes, I have to do a devotional service in a steady manner. But again, it doesn't happen because of the struggle with the senses. And that arises because of the weakness of the heart. Weakness of the heart means that our senses are still not 100% in our control, and thus we just have a mere little fall down kind of thing. Because of that, this devotional service that we perform is doesn't fall in a steady manner. So that is what is hridaya durbalyam. It deals with our mental thing, right? Because our mind is not fixed. When the mind is not fixed, the mind runs after the senses, and when the mind runs after the senses, you know the the service that we perform doesn't fall under the nishtita bhakti, but it comes under the anishtita bhakti. Then comes the Niyamakshama, that is the fifth one. So now what happened? The doubt has been eradicated, and finally the struggle of the sense, we are struggling with the senses, and finally we perform some kind of sense gratification. And then after performing sense gratification, we are kicked by Maya again. And then, we try to come back that, oh yes, now I have performed all kind of sense gratification, and I realize, oh, where I was and now where I am. And then a kind of repentance that occur in our mind, and we think, oh, I should go back now, it's enough. And try to compensate the failure. We just try to take up some strict vows. Oh, from now onwards, I'm going to chant 64 rounds, I'm going to do this, I'm deity worship, and then I'll be reading scriptures every day. So some kind of vows which are unrealistic, which are not realistic, which arise because we want to try to compensate our faults, because we have been indulging in sense gratification. So we try to uphold some unrealistic vows, and that inability to go on with that vows is niyamakshena. What it actually means is that we take up some strict vows and then finally we are not able to keep up those vows, because of which the devotional service we perform is unsteady, is anishtita. And the final is the taranga rangini. So taranga rangini occurs when doubts are gone, we have been kicked by Maya, we have done all kind of sense gratification, we come up on holding vows, and somehow or the other, we are able to perform, uphold all those vows also. But then what happened? The bhakti that we perform yields some results in a form of name, fame, wealth, you know, bhakti yields that kind of results, and those incentives which are being offered by bhakti, then what happened, there is a kind of a subtle thing, subtle desire that comes up. Oh, I'm getting name and fame. So it's basically Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains that when the creeper of bhakti grows, along with that some weeds also grows. So that the weeds that we get, that incentive that we get from bhakti, that is name, fame, wealth, all these are basically the weeds that grow along with bhakti. And it is so subtle, it's so subtle, we'll not even realize that it's existing, we'll not even realize, but it does exist. And that pulls down all of us to perform a naishtika, or the steady devotional service. And finally, we end up in doing a nishtita bhakti. As Adi Gadadhar Prabhu was explaining, that sometimes while preaching, we talk, we say something, but then we are not able to walk or talk. And that's what happens in this Taranga Rangini. Taranga, it means small waves that comes in the ocean of bhakti. And because of that waves that comes, we are bound to perform anishtita bhakti, that is unsteady bhakti. But we have to remember that all these can be mitigated. All these can be mitigated if we take complete shelter of Guru and Gauranga, if we take complete shelter of the holy name, then all these things can be mitigated, and finally one can establish oneself in a naishtika bhakti. That is bhakti, that is the bhajana kriya, the devotional activities which is performed in a steady manner. The next comes the anartha nivritti. I'm going a little fast because I don't want to go into so much detail to confuse all of you. So just giving you the highlights so that we can work on us, right? That where we are lacking. Next comes the anartha nivritti. So after bhajana kriya, when we are doing some kind of devotional service, then what happens? Automatic, the cleaning of unwanted habits happen, and that is what is anartha nivritti. Why unwanted things? Is because they becomes the obstacle in the progress of our bhakti. So anartha, artha means something which has meaning, and anartha which doesn't have any meaning, which is useless, right? So we have to get rid of all those anarthas. So I think so we have covered this in our previous classes, but I'll just re-go again. And it is, though there are 4 types of anarthas. The first anartha is arising from past sins. Right. And the next is arising the anarthas that is being arise because of our previous pious activities. And the third is arising from anarthas. No, sorry, anarthas that has been arising from aparadhas, from offenses. And the finally, that anarthas that have been arising because of bhakti. Right. So, what are those anarthas that have been arising from past sins? So, whatever we are today is the sum total of aggregate of sum total of whatever activities we performed in our previous lives. We all know that, right? So, whatever anarthas, so our past sins will yield to some kind of reactions, and that reactions can be prarabdha or can be aprarabdha. Prarabdha means already which we have, which reactions which have been manifested, that which we are dealing nowadays, right? But aprarabdha is those sinful reactions which are still in the bank account and which has yet to manifest, right? So that is those anarthas which are arising from past sins. And those type of anarthas are basically come from five kind of kaleshas, the five kind of miseries. The first one is avidya, that is ignorance. When we are ignorant of our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then what happened? All the activities which we do are all anarthas. Why? Because they are not in alignment with our ultimate goal, which is to attain the service of the Supreme Personality of God. So the first is avidya. Just to give a lay example in our day-to-day activities, suppose if someone has a stomach pain, right? So morning 6 o'clock when a person wakes up, he wakes up with a stomach ache, right? A severe stomach ache. And then he Googles it and finds out, okay, some first, we try some home remedies. And if that doesn't work, then a person try to do some Google and then takes an appointment with the doctor. But the appointment of doctor is till 12 o'clock. Right. So from 6 to 12, the person is simply suffering because of the pain and also because of avidya, of the ignorance that why this pain is being caused. Right. But the moment that person goes to a doctor at 12 o'clock and doctor says, oh, this is just a kind of a gaseous trouble that you are having, because of that you are having a stomach ache. Just see, the pain is still there. The stomach ache is still there because the medicine has yet not reached the stomach to mitigate that pain. But the suffering goes away. The suffering of ignorance, because now we have knowledge that this is nothing serious to worry about, but it is only a gaseous pain that was troubling me. Right. So, in devotional aspect also, when we are ignorant of our purpose of life, when we are ignorant of our goal of life, what is the ultimate goal of life? When we are ignorant of that, then the activities are all anarthas, right? Then we just try to indulge in some kind of materialistic activities, which is again temporary and which is again shrama eva hi kevalam. It is just a burden, right? Then comes the asmita. So when we are ignorant of our relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then when we think, oh no, I am the boss, I am the master, I am the proprietor, I am everything, when this aham mameti is there, then the false ego, which is asmita, which is the false ego, it takes up to its sky high. The false ego goes up very high. So when we are ignorant, the false ego increases. And then what happened? When the false ego is increased, when we try to establish ourselves and relate ourselves with all those superficial identities of this material world, forgetting our real constitutional identity of being a servant of Krishna, then what happened is the third is raga, where attachment to all these materialistic things happen. Attachment to family, attachment to nation, attachment to spouse, attachment to children, attachment to car, attachment to home, attachment to wealth, attachment, all these materialistic attachments that comes up. Right. So this is also kind of anartha, the kalesha that arise all these kinds of anarthas. And then when our attachment reaches on a high point, then what happened? We develop dvesha. Dvesha is animosity. That why that person is flourishing, why not me? You know, so then this hatredness comes in us, and that is also anartha, right? And then finally is the abhinivesha. Abhinivesha means fear of death. Why the fear of death? Because, oh, I was enjoying these materialistic things, but now I know the moment the death will come, all these enjoyments will be taken away from me. So that fear of death is there. Why? Because we want to enjoy more and more and more and more in this material world. So these are all those anarthas that arise because of the past sinful activities, and those kleshas give rise to various anarthas. Second is the arising from pious previous works. So, arising from pious previous works means any kind of pious activity that we have performed. You know, if it is not Krishna centered, if it is self centered, then that will also yield to anartha. And that anartha will be the enjoyment. The enjoyment of name, enjoyment of fame, right? And that also sometimes the pious activity also yields to a desire of liberation, that I'm doing this because I want this. There is a kind of dealing with the give and take. So the pious activity also we do it with some kind of motive. It is not on a pure platform, but it is in a kind of a hidden motive that is being described, that is there in that activity, and finally a person has a kind of desire of liberation. So these are the arising anarthas that have been arising from the pious work. And finally, the third one is anarthas that is been arising from aparadas, from the offenses. So we know various aparadas: seva aparad, vigraha aparad, dham aparad, Vaishnava aparad, which is the mad elephant aparad. You know, the moment you do Vaishnava aparad, your bhakti, your devotional service is doomed. Right. And also, we know that all those 10 offenses, when we just equate the demigods with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and we think they are independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the aparad that is when we do Shastra Ninda, Smriti Shastra Ninda when we do. So there are various kind of aparadas. But all these aparadas also yield to anarthas. But one thing to be noted here is that if we do dham aparad, if we do seva aparad, if we do any kind of aparad, that aparad can be mitigated by the chanting of holy name. I'll just read something. You know, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes. Um, so, any aparada, any offense that one commit, that can be freed by the strength of prayishchita. And that can only happen when we take up the shelter of holy name. So, when we chant the holy name, all the aparadas, whether it is a dham aparad, whether it is a seva aparad, whether it is a vigraha aparad, any aparada that we commit can be mitigated on the strength of chanting the holy name. But, like for example, we committed a Vaishnava aparad. So the only way to mitigate the Vaishnava aparad is to seek forgiveness, to take the dust of the lotus feet of that devotee, and finally rid ourselves from that aparada, free ourselves from that aparada. So, that can be nullified. But then what happened? Okay, it doesn't happen. Still, the other person, we took the dust of their lotus feet, but still that other Vaishnava is holding that some kind of grudge in oneself. Now, what to do? Now, the next step is to move forward that, oh, let me please that Vaishnava. Maybe that whatever that person he or she likes, I may perform that kind of activity so that that Vaishnava is pleased. Right. So we are doing all kind of endeavors. Right. But still that Vaishnava is holding some kind of grudge. So finally we take shelter of the holy name. That we take the shelter of Harinam Prabhu. That please help me. I'm chanting this round so that I can be rid of that Vaishnava prad. Please help me so that that Vaishnava can be pleased by me. Please help me so that he or she can forgive me. And when we take shelter of Nama Prabhu, then, through the period of time, that Vaishnava Prad also nullifies. But here is the catch. If we think that if by chanting we can get rid of Vaishnava Prad, Seva Aparad, or Dama Aparad, or Vigraha Avatar, or Aparad, or any other Aparada, if we think that this process of nama, of chanting the holy name, can rid us, can help us free from any kind of aparadha, then why to put extra endeavor in pleasing other Vaishnavas? Better let me chant, and then, I can be free. That should not be the attitude. So that is why there is a very beautiful seventh offense that is being mentioned, is to commit sinful activities on the strength of chanting the holy name. Okay, now I have done a seva aparadh. Okay, fine. I'll chant one round extra and somehow mitigate. But then again, I committed another aparadh. And then again, I chanted. So now what happened? All those aparadhas that we are committing, all those offenses that we are committing, are being transformed into nama aparadh. So that is the biggest aparadh. When we commit offense for the holy name, then there is no mitigation. You cannot eradicate yourself from from your any kind of aparadhas, any kind of offenses, if it has been arised because of nama aparadha. Just to say it again, that if we think that that only by chanting of the holy name I can get rid myself from any kind of aparadhas, if we think, and then we go on committing offenses in order that, okay, I'll chant my rounds and I'll free myself, then all those aparadhas are converted into nam aparadh. And when the nam aparadh is there, then there is no way we can free ourselves. That is the biggest offense. So the biggest aparadh one can commit is the nam aparadh, and through which all those anarthas comes in. And finally is the anartha which is arising from bhakti. So this we have already been discussed, that when we perform some kind of bhakti, we get a kind of pride in ourselves. Oh, I do this. Oh, that person cannot keep Ekadashi. I am keeping all Ekadashis Nirjala. We should do it. We should do all Ekadashis Nirjala. And why this person is not able to do it? A kind of pride develops in us. Right? And that is a very, very subtle form. We'll not even realize that how the bhakti can lead to anarthas. It is in such a subtle form, we'll not able to realize it. Right? But that anartha do arise from bhakti too, which is very subtle, and we have to be extra cautious. Extra precautions should be taken so that we may be able to mitigate that kind of anartha also. So now when the anartha nivritti happens, then we come to the next stage, which is nishtha, that is having firm faith. When our faith gets thickened, when our faith gets really condensed, that is what nishtha is. Now the point here to be noted is that anartha nivritti is not a stage where we can just get rid of it. Right. It's a gradual process. It's not that on the stage of nishtha or ruchi, we'll not have any anarthas. We might have there also. It's not that once we have crossed anartha nivritti, then that's it. We'll never get anarthas. That can come even onto the stage of bhava. We know the example of how Bharat Maharaj, he was a live example just to show us that, even when he was on the bhava stage, still he got that attachment to deer, right? And we know that how next life he came into the deer body, and then finally he came as Jada Bharata. But here I'm not saying that that was a fall down for Bharat Maharaj, but he was being used and as an instrument to guide us so that we can take extra precautions in our own progress. He was a Jatismara. He remembered when he was a Bharat Maharaj and when he took up the body of a deer, even in the body of deer, he could remember that what he had committed in his previous life, who was he? And therefore, in his deer body, he was quite cautious that now I'm going to take shelter of sages in the ashrams. And he heard all scriptures, Srimad Bhagavatam, and so forth. And finally, when he got the third body as Jada Bharata, still he could remember. He could remember all his previous lives. That was, he was just put as an instrument by the Lord to guide us so that we can take example from him and we can lead our spiritual life properly. Right. So when he was third life, when he came as Jada Bharata, he could remember and he just acted as a deaf and a dumb man. Though he was quite knowledgeable, he was quite self realized. And finally, we know how King Rahugana took shelter of Jada Bharata and he instructed him on the path of devotional service. So, here the nishtha is when the devotee strives for steadiness, that is a nishtha, but does not attain it. You know, nishtha, we we read, right, when we were talking about bhajana kriya, we talk about anishtita bhakti and nishtita bhakti. So anishtita bhakti, we all talk about that, how those comes in, and finally the anartha nivritti happens, and finally one comes on the platform of nishtha. But even when a person is on the platform of nishtha, even at that time, there are some obstacles because of which a person cannot perform the steady devotional service. So Vishwanath Chakravarti points out, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he points out 5 different reasons because of which still we know that this is the process. We have firm faith in the process, but still our nishtha, our attachment, our steadiness in devotional service lacks. And those 6 points are: first is laya. Laya means the tendency to sleep. When we know that, yes, I have to chant 16 rounds, but still I tend to sleep in those rounds. That is what is laya. That is in Kirtan, in Shravanam, in here Srimad Bhagavatam, which is such an important thing in this human form of life. And still we tend to sleep in the Srimad Bhagavatam class is because our nishtha is not 100% developed. We have full faith in the process, but still we cannot perform Naishtika Bhakti with nishtha, with steadiness, because of this point that we tend to sleep. Right. The next is Vikshepa. Vikshepa means the distraction. The distraction that happens while doing Kirtan. Srimad Bhagavatam class is going on, but we have something, our own important agenda to discuss with our fellow devotee, and we talk. So that is, we are not concentrated on Srimad Bhagavatam. During japa, our phones are always there. Some kind of distraction is there. So at that time when we are doing japa and we at the same time we are busy in phone, that means that japa is not proper. Right. And the third is during Kirtan. Kirtan is going on, but still we have our own agendas and we are talking some mundane topics, some gossiping is going on. So that's what help us. That's what lead us to have less of nishtha, to have no nishtha, and we are not able to perform naishtika bhakti, which is steadiness. We are not steady in our devotional service. And the third is the apratipati. That is basically disinterested in some spiritual topics. When some spiritual topics is discussed, oh, we have our own thing. Oh, I just want to gossip. I just want to talk about that devotee or this devotee, but least interested in those spiritual topics. That is also, it helps us to be away from firm faith. And the next is Shaya. Shaya also refers to you know, tendency towards bad habits, when we have a tendency towards anger, greed, pride, illusion, when we have tendency towards all this, when we are literally become angry while doing some kind of devotional service, or we develop some kind of pride in doing some devotional service, then that also doesn't help us to stay on nishtha bhakti, to come on the platform of nishtha or steadiness. And the last is rasa swada, means again taste for material enjoyments. Okay, I know this process, I do have faith in this process, but my enjoyments are really taking me away from this process, and therefore I cannot perform in nishtha. That is, but nishtha, when a person is on nishtha, that happen when a person is free from all these faults. What are those faults? Laya, sleep, distraction, disinterest in spiritual topics, or bad habits, or taste for the material enjoyments. When all these are absent, then a person can stay on this nishtha platform. After that nishtha, it's already 11:50, but since only 3 4 are left, so I thought I'll just continue till 10 15 minutes more, and so that we can finish up, so that we don't take up an extra day to complete it. Next comes the ruchi. Ruchi is a taste. When a person develops a taste for activities of bhakti, that is hearing, chanting, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, talking the spiritual, having interest in talking, in discussing some spiritual topics, that is what is called ruchi. So it produces a kind of intense addiction in a person. When a person gets addicted, okay, my 16 rounds of chanting are done, but still I want to hold over to the beats. I have heard Srimad Bhagavatam, but still I want to read more. Okay, I come in contact with my fellow devotee, but I don't want to discuss about any gossiping, but want to talk about the spiritual topics. When that things arises, that is when a person comes on the platform of ruchi. A kind of taste develops in kirtan, in hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. Right. Now, this ruchi is basically also maybe of two types that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explains. One is the ruchi that depends on the excellence of elements. Okay, I have, for example, I have a ruchi in kirtan, but I can enjoy kirtan only when there is a proper drums and proper mridanga is there, proper kartal is being played, and a singer is awesome and singing in such a melodious tune. Only then I can make myself absorb in kirtan. That ruchi is there, but it depends upon those external elements. Right. But there is another kind of ruchi when it doesn't depends upon external elements, where a person is simply not even singing, but is saying Mahamantra, not in a proper tune, but I'm attached to those words that is there, that syllable that is there in Mahamantra. When I'm attached to that, that is kind of another kind of ruchi. So there are two, when we depend on the external elements, that okay, if this thing happen, only then I can develop some kind of taste. But if there is no other external elements, but still I am able to concentrate on the holy name, that is the highest kind of ruchi. And then comes asakti. So asakti is enchantment of the heart, that is attachment, when we get attached to the supreme personality of Godhead. So when asakti, bhava and prema is such an esoteric subject matter, which I really cannot speak on my own, so I'll be just referring to the book and just reading it. So kindly pay attention to it so that we can understand it. So asakti is the attachment. So when the taste of doing bhajana, it reaches to its highest depth, at that time when Krishna becomes the object of everything, of every activity that we do, if Krishna becomes the object of it, then that kind of devotional service we perform is on the level of asakti, when we have 100% attachment only and only to Krishna. irrespective of our material conditions we are in. But our only focus is on pleasing Krishna, desire to please Krishna. Right? When that happened, then it is asakti, that is attachment. So there is a difference between ruchi and asakti. In ruchi, we are having a taste on a devotional service like kirtana, shravana, smarana. But in asakti, the subject matter is Krishna. But in ruchi, the subject matter is not Krishna. The ruchi, the subject matter is the service to Krishna. In that we get ruchi, doing some service to Krishna. But in asakti, whatever service we do, but the subject, the object matter is Krishna, to desire to please Krishna. That is the difference between ruchi and asakti. So, asakti, one doesn't know where I am. In nishtha, one forcefully, consciously help oneself to concentrate on the spiritual topic. But in asakti, one consciousness simply flows in devotional service to Krishna. One doesn't have to put an extra endeavor on it consciously. It happens automatically. That is what the stage of asakti is. Then we comes to bhava. So bhava, so when asakti becomes mature enough, you know, when it reaches to its utmost maturity, that is what is bhava is. So you just imagine there is a creeper, and in that creeper, the bhakti lata creeper, that imagine there is a plant, right? There is a creeper, and it has buds, flowers which yield to fruits, right? So that bud refers to the bhava stage. Oh, sorry, the bud refers to, yeah, the bud refers to the bhava stage. The flower the blossoming flower refers to uh, the blossoming flower refers to the prema stage, and the fruit is the extensive form of that prema that we offer to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this bhava is the budding stage of a spiritual bliss, right? It starts blossoming into a flower, yet not reach to a flower stage, but it start blossoming into a flower stage, where one only in power stage one has only realization with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, where one regains one's spiritual identity and wants to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in that spiritual identity. That's what is the bhava stage. So for that, I'll just give an example that so bhava can also be in two forms, either in Vaidhi Bhakti or in Raganuga Bhakti, right? So when we are um, so when the bhava is an Vaidhi Bhakti, it is not that thick, it is not that intense. But when that bhava is in the Raganuga Bhakti, then it is quite intense. And the example that Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives is the juices of mango, the juice of jackfruit, the juice of strawberry, the juice of grapes, the juice of sugar cane. They're all juices, right? They're all juices of that fruit, but their thickness varies, right? Their thickness varies. The sugarcane juice is not that thick as compared to that mango juice. The grape juice may not be that thick as compared to the mango juice. So the thickness and the sweetness also varies. That's what the stage of bhava is. So a person may have a kind of a relationship with Krishna. Some may have a shanta relationship, a dasya relationship, a vatsalya relationship, or sakhya relationship, or madhurya relationship. So that bhava depends upon one's spiritual identity. So in that bhava stage, one's spiritual identity is revealed, and consequently the person acts and have that relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And finally, which is the most esoteric subject matter for a person like me to discuss, which is prema, which is as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu tells about the life's ultimate goal, which is the prema aspect. And that prema is, it says, when a person performs everything for Krishna, Krishna becomes the life and soul. Then a person comes on to the platform of uh, prema stage. Now, here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives an example, which I'll simply be reading, but he's saying these are the mere examples of this mortal world, where which we can try to relate, but still it is not on the level of prema. So he's saying a traveler who is on a desert path, who is scorched by the hot rays of summer sun, somehow seeks shelter under the cool shade of a vast banyan tree. The pleasure that a traveler can get is what prema is. You know, in this prema, see, in bhava, our spiritual identity is revealed, and according to that, we act and serve Lord. But in prema state, the Lord Himself reveal to the devotee. That's the basic underlying difference between bhava and prema. In prema, the Lord reveals Himself. The Lord reveals His beauty, His saundarya. And then when the beauty is revealed, then a devotee thinks, oh, I wish I could have hundred and millions of eyes. Oh, I wish all my senses can become eyes so that I can relish this saundarya, this beauty of Lord. And then the Lord reveals His fragrance. You know, when the Lord reveals His sweet fragrance, then the devotee's nostrils get so ecstatic, and the devotees start thinking, oh, I wish I can get thousands and millions of nostrils so that I can relish this sweetness, this fragrance that is coming from the sweet body, the sweetness that is a fragrance that is coming from the Lord. Oh, I wish all my senses can become my nostrils so that I can relish that sweetness, that fragrance. Then, slowly and slowly, the Lord reveals His softness, His touch. Through His touch, when that softness is really that's revealed by the Lord, then the devotee become ecstatic, and the devotee think, oh, I wish that all my limbs, all my senses can become a skin so that I can feel that softness of the Lord. But here Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that according to one's bhava, according to one's constitutional position, the Lord will reveal its softness. For example, he says that for those who are in the mood of dasya or servitude, then the Lord touches His feet to their head. Right. In the mood of Sakya, He grasps His hand and He gives His touch to His hands. In the mood of parental, He gives the touch of His hands by wiping off the tears. And for conjugal, He rewards His tender softness by embracing His devotee. You know, this is in Sakya. And then finally in the Madhurya, he embraced the devotee. So this is how the Lord also reveals according to one's constitutional position one is situated in. So this is what prema happens. And you know, we know the embodiment of this is Srimati Radharani. But Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he basically ends up with all this, but then, you know, Rupa Goswami, he extensifies that prema aspect, where you remember this flower becomes a fruit so that one can offer onto the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that in Ujjvala Nilamani, Rupa Goswami states about the different stages of prema. So till prema also it doesn't end, it reaches to different stages, and that is sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and finally Mahabhava. But this stage of Mahabhava, Prema, which is in Mahabhava stage, is our dear Srimati Radharani. And that's why she is known as Mahabhav Swarupini Srimati Radha Thakurani. Right? That can only be possessed by Srimati Radharani. So here I'll end up my class. It's already 12 o'clock now. So this is what the stages are there, right? That these are different stages. But eventually, as we'll move forward in this chapter, the more all these stages that I read, that is the stages of prema, that is sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, bhava, mahabhava, all these will be revealed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami. That's why it is known as this Chaitanya Charitamrita itself is such an esoteric subject matter, and especially this Madhya Leela, where we are, the last part of Madhya Leela, where we are entering into the Antya Leela. It ought to be esoteric. It's not easy to realize unless and until one takes shelter of Guru and Gauranga. So to that, I'll end up my class. Thank you all so much. But again, I'll say that all these things that I've spoken is not at all from my realization, because I'm still struggling from that Ado Shraddha stage, not even realized the importance of sadhu sangha, the association of devotees, what to do in that association of devotees, but just took up as the service. So, and try to purify myself so that I can also introspect and see where I am and to which field I have to work on. So, thank you all so much for joining. And if it was really a heavy class, then please forgive me. But it was all under the directions of Preeti Vilasini Mataji, because she instructed me to go dive deep in detail on all these subject matter. So, as a service, I did. But if it is little confusing to you, then please forgive me, and you can always come up, either personally, you can reach out to me, and I'll try that if I can explain it in a much better way. So thank you all so much. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Rupa Goswami Pad ki jai. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Kamadaki Mataji, for always showering your appreciating kind words on all of us. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Sure. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Anjana. Sure. Thank you so much, Anjana Gopika Mataji. Thank you so much. Yeah, we all are not on this level of reading Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, because, as Prabhupada says, that this is a PhD level course. But if we keep on thinking that, oh, I'll never be able to reach up, so better read it so that we can grasp something, of course, by the mercy of Vaishnavas, by the mercy of Guru and Gauranga. So, yes, thank you so much, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Danvat Pranam, Vrinda Gopika Mataji, Danvat Pranam, our glories to your sincerity. Yes, we all are not on that level where we can understand it. It takes lifetime for us to understand. So it's don't think that you are the only one, but we all are sailing, especially me. I'm accompanying you in that boat. So it's not easy to understand. And somehow, I was just reading it. I was just telling, speaking it, but have yet not realized it. So the point is to come on the point of realization. So for that, it may take lifetimes. But thank you. Thank you so much for your sincerity. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Padma Sakhi Mataji, and we pray that hope you feel better. We'll pray for your recovery, speedy recovery. But thank you so much for joining and thank you for your kind words. Jai, Dandvat Pranam, Divya Manjari Mataji. So happy to hear your voice. So happy to hear your voice. Oh, that's your sincerity, Mataji, that you are taking up in that way. But, just made up of mercy of Guru Maharaj, nothing else. No diamond. We are still the, you know, simple gem, simple stone. But, because of Maharaj's mercy, it's being polished and it looks like diamond to all of you. So all we are made up of is Guru Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada's mercy. That's all. But thank you for your kind words. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Amazing class, Mataji. Amazing, very nice points and very wonderful notes you took. And you can see a lot of study behind it. So thank you so much for putting so much effort in there.
Thank you so much, Shama Gauri Mataji. But all the efforts, is because for my purification. That's all I'll say. That's all. But thank you so much for all your kind words. I'll definitely pass on to my Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Wonderful class, yes. And when you started the class, you said you don't remember any of the words. Just try to understand the process so that you can see where you are. And and my question, my first comment is, I'll go to Srila Prabhupada because he has so nicely and scientifically, and of course, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has so nicely and scientifically analyzed the whole process and set it down in a step-by-step process which we can follow. That being said, my comment, question, dilemma, whatever you say, is I can see myself in a lot of those different places, a lot of those different, not in the advanced stage, obviously, but in the beginning when you're talking about the American University and you're talking about the different types of anagas we have, there's so many things. What can you show them? There's so many things that I could recognize myself in, but it became a little bit overwhelming. And I was like, I didn't know where to go. So can I get a simple formula? So that's my question. I want a simple formula. Break it down to me and just tell me what I need to do. I just want to do.
Thank you so much, Panishwari Mataji. But, this class was not to demoralize anybody, that we think, oh, I have not yet reached to the first stage. It's a long journey to go. This is nothing to demoralize, but rather it is to inspire. There are two ways in looking to it. Sometimes we get some kind of disease, right? So sometimes we become demoralized that, oh, now I've got a disease, I've become handicapped, I'm not able to walk, I'm not able to say something, go there. All these disease, sometimes lead us to demoralization. But sometimes we take it positively that, okay, this disease has come up, maybe because of my karmic reactions, maybe because of some other reason, but I have to now deal it properly and, take best out of it. So this is to inspire. So all these classes, though these are all esoteric subject matters, as I've already said, but remember, these are not to demoralize us, but these are to strengthen ourselves, to strengthen our faith that, yes, I know this is a long way to go, but I have this kind of positivity in me that at least I'm on this path. At least I've stepped on to this path. It's a long way. The journey is long. The destination is very far. No doubt about it. But at least that positivity is there, that at least I have stepped on that path. Sooner or later, I'll reach to my destination. Maybe not this lifetime, maybe next lifetime, maybe 10 more lifetimes, maybe 1,000 more lifetimes. But I know that my path is right. If that kind of positivity we have, then, in no time, it will be easy to cross all the hurdles, to cross all the obstacles that may arise in that path, if that positivity is there. But if we think, oh, the destination is so far, it's a long way to go, I'll become lethargic, it's very difficult to walk, it's very difficult to cross all those obstacles, then that will demoralize us. So the idea is to inspire us, to enthuse us, so that we can become firm and we have that kind of positivity that, yes, at least I'm on that path. And the easy formula that you are asking, that what I have in my mind, at least is that, okay, this is the yoga dharma. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to establish this yoga dharma, irrespective of all the anarthas I have, irrespective of all the obstacles that I have to cover, but at least I'm chanting 16 rounds. I have taken a shelter of a bona fide spiritual master. I am chanting intentionally. I'm not doing anything which can harm or which can bring ill fame to my Guru Maharaj. Intentionally, I'm not doing anything. So, and of course, thinking that, yes, it's only because of his causeless mercy. That is what I am made up of. Mercy is the blessings that you don't deserve, but still you get it. That is what mercy is. And when we think that, oh, I am nowhere, I deserve nothing, but still my Guru Maharaj has showered his mercy on me, I know if I hold on to him, he will take care of me. He'll lead me onto the right path and he'll take care of me. So that kind of positivity should be there. And all these references, all these books, all these scriptures that we read is only and only to enthuse and inspire us, not to demoralize us. Because that's not the objective of these scriptures. If we get demoralized, then what's the use of this? It's just to enthuse us. It's not only about Chaitanya Charitamrita. If you read Srimad Bhagavatam, what to talk about Bhagavatam? If you read Bhagavad Gita, then also you'll feel like, oh, I'm nowhere. But I have that positivity that I have taken full shelter in this process. I have taken full shelter of this Srila Prabhupada and of all our present Guru Vargas. I have taken shelter of them. And since they are Tattva Darshina, they have realized the truth. So they'll guide me in the proper path. If that faith we'll have, that's all is needed. Chant, that's why Srila Prabhupada says, chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regulative principles, and be happy. So if we hold on to that point, yes, we have to work a lot. Work a lot. It's not easy. Just by chanting 16 rounds, one cannot go home back to Godhead. But if I know that I've simply stepped into that process, sooner or later, I'll achieve my destination. That feeling one should have. Hope I answered.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And like I said, you've given me the little everything in a nutshell that I needed to hear. Thank you so much, Mataji, from the bottom of my heart. My humble obeisances to your class. Thank you, Hare Krishna, and Guru Maharajas. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Yes, Kirti Dasandi Mataji, Tundwat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna Mataji. Some question Mataji. It's a very, very nice class. Also, I just want to share one statement. I was reading next of the instruction as Prabhupada was writing in the purport. In the process is there, but out of many, one person may we take very seriously this process. Means they are Uttamadhikari. Means I was thinking, Mataji, how you are taken so seriously this process and helping us in this purification process. Mataji is very, very inspiring. I'm so thankful to you, Mataji. Otherwise, to go and deep this Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's book is very difficult for me. I was, Ramagiri Dari Prabhu was giving class. He was mentioning that Bhajana Kriya, that 6 things. Yes, you were telling Ussa Mataji from the beginning. Mataji, can you repeat one time, Mataji?
Yes, Anjana Gopika Mataji. So the Bhajana Kriya, that is first, it's Utsahamai. Utsahamai is that when we do it in this false confidence that yes, I can do it. That's it. That is what Utsahamai is. There is a confidence, but that confidence is a false confidence. It's an initial enthusiasm. Right, you just see that when we just step into this devotional service, or when we just step into this process of Krishna consciousness, we think, oh, I can clean up to the temple, I can take up the cooking service, I can do book distribution, I can do kirtan, I'll go there. Every weekend we make ourselves busy, every day we make ourselves busy. It's all that initial enthusiasm, and finally we get so occupied in this, and then we think, oh, this is too much for me to handle. Okay, let me just leave this thing and do this thing. Let me just stick on to only one service. So that initial confidence, because of that initial enthusiasm, we take up to the high processes of devotional service, and finally we are not able to commit to it. So that's what is bhajana kriya when it is done in an utsaha, in an unnecessary enthusiasm. That is a false confidence. And the next is Ghanatarala. Ghanatarala is
no. Yeah, Mataji, in that I think I have a question. Even sometimes I feel, because I did so many times, still I am doing in that kind of things, and then even we can get Bueller, some devotees doing so much of services, and even in the family member also we see our friend or children, we see they are so much of getting enthusiasm, doing so much of devotional service, and we build and we encourage like anything, even though they are not ready to take in that stage. Yes, means we have also so much of expectation because we are not in the highest stage. So we can see their level also, because that is for me so much a problem, even for myself, and even I see the devotee, and then even our family member, I get that high expectation, Means how
yes, I got your point, Mataji. Yeah, all those services or others who perform that services. So first of all, we have to speculate or introspect our own self. Not speculate, I'm sorry, but we should try to introspect in our own self that what kind of circumstances I have been put into. In what circumstances I am. Is my body, which is again the temple of the Lord, because it's only through this body that we can perform some kind of devotional service. Is this body enough to support me in all those services? Am I my body uh, is becoming hectic because of those services? So we have to introspect on all this, and we have to come up to the point where we have to have that sambandha gyan with Krishna, because ultimately we have to understand that all those services we perform, any service, name it, any service, whether it's cleaning the temple, cooking for the Lord, dressing the deities, doing arati, taking care, preaching, book distribution, going for sankirtan, any service we perform, any service, irrespective of we perform, the main objective is to chant Shuddhanam. If by performing all those services our chanting is being hampered, then there is no use of those services. All these services are supposed to enthuse ourselves in our chanting, to inspire us to chant on a Shuddha level, on a Shuddha Nam, to Shuddha Nam chanting. That is the purpose of all these services. The only objective of Krishna consciousness, of this Sankirtan movement, of this Yoga Dharma that has been established by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and propagated by Srila Prabhupada and our Guru Vargas, the only objective is to chant Shuddha Nam. If that purpose is being failing, then other services are of no use. That point, we have to understand. If we are simply getting inspired by seeing others, that, oh, they are able to do all those services, so let me also step in. But we have to understand that their circumstances is different, my circumstances is different. If somebody is going for book distribution, and every day or maybe every weekend they are going, and I'm not able to go, I'm just giving an example, then I have to look into it. If that person or if that family, if that couple is going, how much responsibilities do they have? And how much responsibilities do I have? I have my family, I have my child, I have to look after everything. Going to book distribution, leaving the family, and family which is not happy or not taking care of that family, and still going for book distribution will not solve the purpose. Right? So the point here I'm making is that utsaha, like Nectar of Devotion says, utsaha nishchayat and dhairyat. That is, utsaha means enthusiasm, nishchayat means determination, and dhairyat means patience. All these three things are required. But that false enthusiasm, that I can do everything, that should not be there. That false confidence, that false enthusiasm by seeing others should not be there, because we have to understand the hidden, underlined, the main objective is to chant Shuddha Nam. That is the only objective of this Yoga Dharma. That is the only objective of Krishna consciousness. So that is why, it is said that if we have in that false enthusiasm, if we form any kind of devotional service, that will be unsteady. But if we make a balance out of it, okay, this is what I have to take care. These are my responsibilities. These are my liabilities. And as per taking care of this, these are mine. They have been entrusted on me by Krishna himself. Right? These are not my responsibilities, but I have been given this task by Krishna. So that is also a kind of service. If we think in that manner, and along with that, if we take, okay, this I can do, I can preach this much, I can do this service this much, I can go to Sankirtan once in a month, I can go for book distribution this much. If we just balance out everything, then the services that we perform may be in a steady manner, because then we'll not fall off from this path of devotional service, because then the steadiness will be there in our services. Getting my point?
Yes, Mataji. Yes, very nice, Mataji. I have to go again also.
Yes, sure, Mataji. You can go over again and you can ask any other further questions or doubts you have, and I'll try to answer to my best of ability. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, just I was thinking, I had a question, but when you were speaking with Taneshi Mataji, a thought occurred to me, that right now, and it's a thought that doesn't come from realization, it comes from more, I think, hearing, that when we are feeling like we have so far to go and we are feeling overwhelmed by the distance between where we are and the goal, I was thinking that, as our faith in Krishna consciousness increases, that distance will seem more and more insignificant, even if it's very far away still. It won't have a disheartening effect upon us. I'm thinking of, I think it's the pastime of Mukunda.
Yes.
The one who said,
10,000.
Yes, Lord Chaitanya told him 10,000 lifetimes he will.
Yeah, 10,000 lifetimes. Yeah, very true, very true, Garangi.
Great, only 10,000, but it was because he had so much faith in Krishna prema,
Yes.
And so even if it's so far off, when you have faith, that distance seems insignificant.
Very true.
Like
very
I said,
true.
That's not coming from any realization at all.
Very true.
But
very
anyway,
true.
My question was about the 5 aspects of avidya. And so I don't know if you remember when you were discussing avidya, it was nested in as a subcategory. And I got a little distracted, so I wasn't sure if that subcategory, if your discussion of avidya came under your discussion of
Anartha Nivritti.
Anartha Nivritti. Okay, so within Anartha Nivritti, the anarthas, did it come under? Okay, the anarthas were impious activities, pious activities. The weeds of
it's
bhakti,
not actually.
and so on.
Yeah, it's not actually. Because the anarthas that has been arising from past sinful activities and anarthas that is arising from pious activities and then from offenses and then from bhakti. But here the point that I was making is that all those offenses that are being, it comes in the subcategory of the first one, that is anarthas arising from past sins. So the point here is that why these anarthas exist. What is the point of existing these anarthas when we have already reached to some level of bhajana kriya? So there this point comes in that because of some past sinful activities that these anarthas pop up. And why these? They are under the category of 5 kaleshas that we are born into it. Right? When we are born into these 5 miseries, the 5 miseries, that is ignorance, because all these are the fruits of material life, right? When we are into that material life, we are tend to get attached, we are tend to have some kind of false identification that leads to false ego. Then we are always born in ignorance unless and until we take shelter of the Supreme Lord or its bona fide representative. And then definitely that hatred also comes in. So all these kleshas, all these miseries, all these fruits of material activities which are there, that basically bind us into some or the other kind of anartha. That's what I was making the point.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so basically it's, like you said, our present life is a culmination of our past sinful activities.
Yes.
Which means we get born into, it's like we inherit at birth these 5 types of avidya, which is part of the anartha, one of the
Yes.
North is 2005.
Yes.
Okay, it's much clearer now. Thank you so much, Mataji. Yeah, you always give very clear breakdown of the subject. Thank you so much.
All glories to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He did all the job and I just repeated.
Yeah, but not everybody can repeat what they learn so clearly, And so I really appreciate your ability to do that, and all the time that you spend in order to do that. So it's not anybody. All of us can read. We know how to read, but we don't know how to explain so clearly. So, and I know it takes a lot of time and work to be able to make these kind of presentations so clearly. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you so much, Garangi Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Aruna Mataji.
What a nectarian class, Mataji. Awesome, amazing. As usual, you always give wonderful classes. Glory to your service. Mataji, I have a question on the prema. At the end, you are explaining again in few stages of prema. Mahabhava, I could catch. What are the other stages you said, Mataji?
Okay, the other stages in prema, actually, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur doesn't describe all that because he culminates his discussion till prema. But Rupa Goswami in his Ujjvala Nilamani, he carried further the different stages in prema too, which will be discussed by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to Sanatana Goswami in the further verses. And those descriptions which are in the stages of prema are sneha. First is sneha. So it is basically when one achieves excellence and one's heart melts on beholding Krishna. That is sneha. And then it is mana. Mana is when there is a kind of loving exchanges, but still, a kind of that crookedness that arises in that devotee. It's not the word as such crookedness, like Man Radhika, that's her name. So when Srimati Radharani is little upset with Krishna, she expects that Krishna should come and pacify me. So that way, she is in her man. So that is what is the stage of prema. And then is the pranaya. Pranaya is when our consciousness reaches to its highest excellence, and through our body, mind, and intelligence, everything is one with Krishna's life. Then it is pranaya. And then comes raga, and then anuraga, and then bhava, and then mahabhava. So these are really esoteric subject matter, which I just cannot explain in these words. Probably, the future speakers can do a great job in the coming verses. But just to give up the highlight point is that sneha, mana, pranaya, raga, anuraga, bhava, and finally mahabhava. Got it,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yes. And the other question is, you are explaining about aparadha, Mataji.
Yeah.
Vigraha aparadha, dhama aparadha.
Yes.
Seva aparadha, etc. Can you please repeat them? I missed few. I understood Vaishnava aparadha is the greatest aparadha.
Yeah, like Vaishnava aparadha is there when we commit aparadham, onto the Vaishnavas or Guru. Then seva aparadha is there when we do kind of a seva and we still commit some kind of offenses. We speak something or we do something. That is what seva aparadha is. Then vigraha aparadha is then when we do it while we are serving the deities directly. That is the vigraha avatar. Then there is a dham aparadha where we go to the dham. We go to dham, but we don't see the spiritual value of that dham. And just by seeing those material things, like, for example, if you are going to Vrindavan and we see pigs and we do ew, and we see all those mud and all those filthy places, and when we do all these kind of reactions, that is what dham aparadha is, because we have to understand that this dham is not something material that we can just point out. So basically even the animals, even the pig, even the monkeys, even the everything in the dham, they are basically dhamvasis. So if we don't realize that, then we commit a dham aparad. And then there is aparad where we equate the position of demigods onto Krishna, where we say, oh, Lord Shiva and Lord Krishna are just the same. That kind of aparad also we commit. And then we commit aparad like shastra aparad, where we do shastra ninda. We don't accept the teachings of the shastras, and we try to find faults in it. That is the shastra ninda we do. So that also is a kind of aparada. So there are various aparadas, but the point here is to understand that all the aparadas, even the highest of that is Vaishnava aparad, can also be mitigated by Nam aparad, by chanting the holy name. But if we think that on the strength of chanting the holy name I can mitigate all the aparadas, so let me continue, because if I do some aparad, I'll chant again, I can do again, I can chant. Because if that process we follow, then all the aparadas will take the shape of nam aparad, which is impossible to mitigate. So the highest of all aparadas is nam aparad. That was the point that I was making.
Yes, got it, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Okay, so if there are no more questions and comments, then by all of your permission, we can end up.
For your session, Mataji, now we can see our senses to address Sivita Sundari Mataji. Vanchakalpatarvesha, Kripa Sindhu Vaivaccha, Patitanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Nantakoti Vaishnavarinda ki jai. Charitramrita ki jai. All the Vaishnava ki jai. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
This session is no longer being recorded.
Anant Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.